Okay, good day, everybody. Veritas here. So today is 9/11/2021. I'm going to start doing daily podcasts, and I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. One, I think that, of course, there'll be some valuable information that I can share each day. But I like the idea of doing a daily podcast because I pretty much all day long, every day, my mind is constantly uploading new information. And I've mentioned to friends of mine before that what happens with me is I get inspiration, but the inspiration comes in kind of like I get the answer to a riddle oftentimes far sooner than I even know what the riddle is. It's a really bizarre thing. And one of the other things I've noticed is, so when I was going on my journey here, pretty much most of my life, and I know a lot of you guys will be able to relate to this, I was able to, if somebody would ask me for advice or need help or they'd have a problem, I would be able to give them these awesome answers and perspectives of how they could view their situation and come to a resolution. And for many years, I actually thought I was kind of a fraud because I could give other people advice and I would say, well, why don't I follow it? And it's funny because for helping people out with perspective, somehow the shame-based mindset that I had for many, many years would allow me to actually feel guilt about that. I don't believe that anybody has anything or any mental diseases. I think in fact, the minute that we accept that we have a mental disease or there's something physically wrong with our thinking, we kind of imprison ourselves in that box. That being said, I do think that you can look at specific behavior patterns that a person is displaying in that present moment and identify similarities with other people who have exhibited those same characteristics. But because the mind and the soul and the spirit and your identity is completely 100% malleable, dependent upon your belief system, I think it's silly to designate someone as being a particular thing because they have exhibited behavior. I've said something like this before. We were all babies. We all pooped our pants. We all peed our pants. We all couldn't walk. We rolled around, doing these jerky movements with our bodies. And we don't, because of the fact that we didn't self-identify with a baby faller down or never walker or pooper peer of the pants, we ended up overcoming those attributes. Now, with that being said, you could look at a baby in the present moment who's pooping its pants and say that baby is exhibiting similar behavior patterns to other babies that are of that age or are behaving in that way, and assume that perhaps it's likely that they will continue pooping their pants until they overcome it. Now, the problem is that we look at babies like that. Hey, this baby is exhibiting pooping behaviors or peeing behaviors in said diapers. But we know that the baby is malleable, it's growing, and it's changing. And we know that it's only a matter of time until we overcome it. And so we encourage the baby we don't really focus on hey, you pooped your pants, you're a pooper. We focus on encouraging them when they're ready and through positive reinforcement to eventually get out of diapers and stuff. And it's funny. It's almost insane to me that we have a society that does the opposite with adults. People who are supposed to be wiser and more versatile. We assume because they exhibit specific behavior patterns that we should title them with a disease. It's absolute insanity to me. And I like to keep my podcast focused on solutions and not problems, but sometimes it is helpful for an individual to recognize that there is a problem so that they can seek out a solution. And to me, there is a problem with our medical system, psychiatry, and all that. And I think it's heavily focused on getting people to take more and more medication for life than it is on helping people to resolve their issues. I will have a couple of podcasts coming out. I didn't realize how passionate I was about it until I just started speaking about just how ridiculous it is that we, or humans, are going to professionals who spent many years in school who are telling them that the answer is to take medication. By the way, they've done studies on antidepressants, and they found that there was no noticeable difference between the effectiveness of those with whom received a placebo versus those who didn't and received the real medication, although those who received the medication did have considerable side effects associated with it. And so we have known studies that indicate that placebo was just as effective as the terrible toxins and poisons they're having people put in their body for their anxiety and depression. I think it was actually depression medication. And yet nobody's really dealing with that. In addition to that, you are what you eat. And I'll have specific podcasts on this, but there are so many reasons why people have brain fog and depression, besides just having the fact that they have a system of beliefs that tell them that their identity dictates who they are. Now, once you do that, you create a dangerous ego. I believe in transcending and healing the ego and transforming it into an elevated state of consciousness in which it becomes a giver of love instead of a needer of things. But with that being said, a dangerous ego is one in which it believes that its identity is indicative of who it is and allows it to define it. And like I said before, trees grow outwards. Ego is built from the past. The outer rings of the tree are the past. The bark is the furthest from it, the most in the past. And if a tree ever let the bark dictate its growth potential, it would never grow. The bark would say, I'm 2 feet in diameter. We're not going any further than that. And because we have that, you have people that believe, like, the ego is basically, I can't. Actually, the ego really starts with what it is not. It's separateness. I am not everything else in front of me. I am not responsible for what happened to me. I can't do this. And if you believe that you are not something, which then therefore resonates out into what you think you can or cannot do, and you think you cannot do that thing, but yet your soul is crying out to create and grow much like you did as a child before you put those limited restrictions upon yourself, then you will remain trapped because now you want things that you can't have. And that will cause depression or anxiety. And the worst part about it is anxiety, like most ailments that we're covering up with medications, are the body or the mind or the ego saying, hey, I have a belief structure in here. It's causing me and you grief. We want to do things that we don't believe we can do. Let's resolve it, but we're taught to run away from them. All right. So anyways, I went on a little bit of a tirade there, but let's bring it back to where I was going with initially. I thought I had Imposter Syndrome, wherein I seemed to just get lucky with tests and, learning stuff and things like that. And I had some successes in my early adult life. And I just always thought I just got lucky. Like, I had to take this sysadmin test to get into this. They had this special class for a company that I wanted to work for when I was younger during the .com era. And I got a really, really good score on it. Now, the funny thing is I studied really, really hard when everybody was going out and everything like that. I mean, I memorized the book, and I did it not because I have photographic memory, but because I put a lot of time and effort into it. And there were different tests. They would have a whole bunch of tests so people couldn't take down the answers and give them to other people. And I had always thought I got the easiest test of anybody, and I'd go on to do that. What was my point with all of this? So I thought I had imposter syndrome. What was my point on that? I don't know. I can't remember. I guess we'll just move on. So anyway, I wanted to do these daily podcasts Oh, that's what it was. So when my whole life I was giving people advice, and I felt like an imposter because I would give them advice and perspectives, and I was what I consider to be a very, very imperfect human being, and it felt wrong. And I've realized since that we all have this ability, as crazy as it may sound. It's just a simple reality, in my opinion, that we all have this ability to connect to a source that is greater than ourselves. And that source, it's almost like there's a, a key that you need to draw from it. It's inspiration. I've said many times before in my podcast, Genie comes from the word, genius comes from the word genie, because they thought that anybody who could come up with these crazy, I mean, think about it. Someone said, hey, I want to harness the power of this invisible stuff that I can't see, and harness electricity. Now that could not have come from the egoic past brain. Everybody's walking around with candles. That came from somewhere else, which means there's like a universal consciousness, or what Tesla called the Akash. And I know it exists because I use it more than anything, all the time now. And I believe that the only time that I'm not accessing it as much as I want, it's because I have some kind of limiting belief in there that's preventing me, or I'm not utilizing the keys. I don't know all of the keys yet, and so that's why I wanted to do these daily podcasts, because I found that when one of the keys to accessing the universal consciousness is a lack of fear. Fear is kind of like an anti-power. The more fear you have, the more you need it to happen, and you're wanting it to kind of be given to you. It's kind of a weird thing. Then you'll have less faith, and when you have less faith, that will kind of cut you off from the source. But also, there's definitely in the Bible, it says all over the place, give and you get. Now, a lot of people thinking in a 3D mindset would be like, well, I gave money to my friend and I didn't get any money. Here's a simple fact, guys. Everything you do, you're not doing it for the thing that you think you will have. You really have nothing. Even the things you hold in your hand, you're not actually in physical contact with them. They're separate from you. But you don't have anything. All you ever have is relationship to things. You don't really have them. Even like the food that you eat that goes in your body, you now have a relationship with the microorganisms that are floating around in your body afterwards, your thoughts. And so because you only have relationships with things, the value should be placed on the relationship that you have, and the relationship is a two-way street. If someone gets a new car and they have a bad relationship with it and they don't take care of it, it breaks down and it doesn't look so good anymore. If they, and if they have a relationship in which they're not grateful for it, then it doesn't matter. If you have someone who gets a car and they love the car and they take care of it and they have a great relationship with it, then they have a great experience with that relationship with the car. If someone gets a car and they have a bad relationship, then they have a bad relationship. It's never about the things outside. It's about the relationships that we hold with them. Now you might say, well, so does that mean I should just hang around with people that are low frequency, that cause me a bunch of grief, or are doing crazy things and stuff like that, or they're a bad influence, because they say elephants with elephants, monkeys with monkeys. No, it doesn't mean that. But here's the interesting thing: as your frequency raises, the people in your life will fall away. You can't have a high frequency and keep other very, very low frequency people around you. They'll just fight against you. That's why Jesus said you can't give pearls to holy pearls like wisdom to swine or dogs. They'll trample them in the mud and they'll attack you. And so that's why a lot of people, as their frequency raises, they realize their old life falls away. You no longer attract or project that reality anymore, and you move on. So the goal is really to focus only on ourselves internally and the relationship that we have with all things. And if we look at that, if we look at life as, Kennedy said, and it's so powerful, he said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. You live your life by that model, and I promise you, like the Bible says, you give and you get in return, it will happen 100%. It can't not happen. It's a mathematical certainty. It is. Live your life asking, what can I give? Because here's the thing that people don't realize. Anything you give comes from the Spirit. It is a force of power. It is agape. It's love. Whether if you go and there's something you don't want to do and you overcome it in that moment, you use the power of transformative love. Why? Because the program in your ego said, I can't do that because I will feel a negative type of way, so I don't want to. Now, you needed to override that program. You needed to transform what already existed. Where did you call from? You called from the force of love. With great power comes great ability to respond, great responsibility. When you have a problem and you don't know the answer to it, and you're asking and you're seeking, and all of a sudden this answer comes in your head, inspiration in spirit, right, comes, it gives you that answer. And that's the dangerous part for those of us who are ascending too. Not dangerous. It's an interesting challenge for those of us who are ascending to remember. You know, in the Bible it says, "For why do you worry? For you cannot add a single cubit or inch, if you want, to your stature with your worrying. For you cannot turn a single hair black on your head with your thoughts. The Father does." What is the Father? The Father is love. And so we have to recognize, or it's best for us to recognize, that anything we've ever accomplished or overcame was done utilizing the power of agape, transformative love, the power of the Father that is within all of us. If we don't realize that, because here's the thing, the answer will come in your own voice. When you get an answer from the Father, I mean, some people may get it, but it's not usually, I, Son, I declare the blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work like that. It will come in your own voice. That's actually the beauty of it. And so the trick is to keep your mind and your state of being and your understanding and discernment capabilities up to par to such a degree that you can recognize a voice of the ego, which is the past, which has its purpose, its stability, it's reminding you of things, you know, it can keep you grounded to certain degrees, or the voice of inspiration, the voice of the Spirit, or the voice of the body. And the job is not to run away from the voice of the body, because if you deny it, it's because you're afraid of it. If you're afraid of it, you lose the power of love. Fear cancels out the power of love. It's like anti-love. And you can find yourself in a prickly situation. So the goal is to pay attention to our thoughts. If it's in fear, try to counteract it, right? So it's the power of love. So how do you call forth the power of love? All right? And I'd mentioned before in some podcasts, so the power of love for your body. So it kind of works like this. We can actually use the 7 chakras, which is really cool. No, actually, before I go to that, let me finish up the first thought that I started with. So the reason that I want to start doing these daily podcasts is I've been sitting here in front of the computer for a couple hours, and I have been working on this. I had this answer to this riddle, and every time I sit there and I try to write it out, like get the details in there, I get stuck. And then what happens is that if I get stuck, or I had gotten stuck, when I try to do it, and when I start getting stuck, I notice that now I'm starting to need it. And when I start to need it, then there's fear, stuff like that, and I feel like it disconnects me, or had disconnected me from the source that I draw from in my inspiration. But what's really interesting is whenever I am helping somebody or teaching somebody or whatever, you know, providing information or perspectives to other people, answers fly out of my mind that I know is connected to source of love and transformation. So there is something about, and going back to what I said in the beginning, that I had that kind of imposter syndrome and I thought I was a fraud because I could provide these answers to people, and I didn't seem to live them myself sometimes. Well, that was because there was a couple of reasons, but one of them was because the way I had survived up until that point is I had believed in, and I have previous podcasts to talk about this, being selfless. I thought the option was being selfless or selfish. And the reality is you want to be self more. So I had a lack of faith in myself and a lack of love for myself, because I basically just made myself selfless to get through life and still be what I considered at the time, from a different perspective than I have now, what a good person was. I thought I just had to sacrifice myself, but I was unaware that you can still do that, but first you have to love yourself. And when you love yourself, and I'll get to that in a minute, now you're calling forth the power so that you're full of joy, you're full of serenity, you're full of courage, you have wisdom and stuff like that. And so now you're not in that give and take mindset where it's either I'm selfless to give to others, I have to take for myself, or I have to take from others to give to myself. And now you become the light that shines on the world, or your cup overfloweth, or from the abundance of the heart the mouth shall speak. You're just full of that joy, and you're less dependent upon the circumstances around you. But until you get to that point, yes, it is kind of sacrificing yourself. And so I just didn't love myself enough, because I thought it was either love others or myself. And so I had this kind of imposter syndrome. So what I realized is that when I do these podcasts, because I go into a free flow, in spirit kind of mindset of just channeling love for the podcast, it really helps me to bring those thoughts out there in the same way that it does when I'm helping others. Like, I have a lot of people that come to me, that God, that's how the universe works. As God has given us information, He'll bring people to us that need us in that moment. And actually, I'm getting really, really adept at just knowing now. And sometimes it's the weirdest thing. It could be like the other day, an old lady with her dog. It could be someone who's, that I just saw out and about, who just had someone who passed away, and the spirit just gave me the right things to say. Or it could be people online that just send me a private message, because they're drawn to me as much as I'm drawn to them. And I just and that's why Jesus said, go out into the world and just find people and let them come to you. And it's really, really awesome. So I'm going to start doing these daily podcasts. And I like it because I don't have, when I sit there and I'm trying to do like these mini episodes of like overcoming ego and things like that, I feel like I start to get into this mode of trying to force the information. And I'm still going to do that, but I also like kind of the free flow style of just getting on here with the daily podcast. And I know that for you guys who will listen to them, I think it will actually be good for you as you're listening to them, because it's just, hey, it's a daily podcast. Brian's going to ramble on, and there will be some choice bits that I'm going to take in there, because any of you guys that are listening, you're listening for a reason. There's something in here that can be of value, So anyway, so one of the things that I've been working on is I mapped out this kind of Davinci Code thing, and I feel like there's something missing, and I feel like perhaps I'm just not supposed to finish it yet. It's probably part of this journey that I'm supposed to do. Maybe it's supposed to compel me to do daily podcasts like I'm doing now. And throughout these daily podcasts, it will help other people and it'll help myself in some way more than it would have had all the answers just came to me to kind of map this thing out. Because I'll tell you something, just knowing the answer to a riddle is not the same as getting it to incorporate your ethereal mind, your emotional, your will, instinct, and all that stuff. But so what I wanted to do is lightly cover with this, and then I'll just cap this one. So you have the 7 chakras. Now, what I'm about to share with you guys, I don't have all the answers to it yet at all. But it's kind of that riddle, the answer to the riddle. Sometimes I'll get the answer to the riddle and it's a little off. So I just want to give you guys this information, and you'll be able to absorb what you want from it, and maybe you'll be able to take it another way. I'm still not even sure if there is, I don't think there is one way for all of us. I don't think that's what's supposed to happen. I think that what we're supposed to do is take information from a lot of sources and create our way, because at the end of the day, you are a unique individual. You are different than me. You have a different role. Why would what I know exactly, or what works for me, work for you? There are things that I do that I have no idea, like with healing and stuff. I don't even know. I won't even get into it, because there's the world is a lot more magical than people think it is, but I don't want to get any information that's too far out there for people, because I don't want to lose anybody. I want to keep this with enough logic and stuff like that, kind of teetering on the spirituality. And, if people start going down that direction, they'll be able to find it on their own, because nobody told me how to do any of this stuff. I just woke up one day and knew how to do it. And so I think that's what the goal here is for us. Teachers is, I mean, everybody's at different levels, but my goal is not to give anybody specific answers and details. My goal is to give you guys information, and it's kind of like a spark, and all of you guys have the same connection to source that I and everybody else and everything else in the whole omniverse does. And so it's to act kind of as a catalyst to help people open up those doors inside of themselves so that those answers start pouring forth to them. Because I'll tell you, people ask me, Brian, where do you get all of your info? Do you read a lot of books? No, I don't read other people's books. I like reading fantasy books for fun because I think it's great exercise for the human brain, because you're analyzing a lot of symbols, taking those symbols, recognizing the symbols, then recognizing the words that those symbols form, then recognizing how they compare to one another in a complete sentence, and then simultaneously connecting them together to give it some kind of contrast in the overall theme of what was happening before and what's going to happen in the future, and also simultaneously creating a movie in your head. I think it's one of the best exercises you can do, especially fantasy. I do read lots of material, but when I read material, this is kind of how I do it. Sometimes YouTube videos show up just on my phone and will start playing. That's how I learned about the Gospel of Thomas. I fell asleep one day and out to music to meditate, and I woke up listening to something talking about Greg Braden. That guy's awesome. Talking about the Gospel of Thomas. So I will say this to you guys: there is actually a really good Audible series online, and I don't like watching other people's videos very much, or even audios. It's just the way my mind works. I like to grab lots of information. I read really, really, really fast, so I like to just scan information, and I go kind of where my spirit tells me to go, and I'll read things, and I'll say, oh, well, there's something about it, and then my mind connects it later or something. But the best channel I've ever seen is Given Voice to the Wisdom of the Ages. That guy has the best voice ever. I had, it's just, he's so good, and there's so many playlists on there. And so there's a couple that kind of found their way to me. One of them is The Way to Mastery. There's 4 books. Now, when they finally showed up in front of me, I had already connected a lot of these dots, or the Father had given me the answers to those. But so it was just a lot of confirmation for me, because a voice in my head told me a while ago, that I'm not allowed to get answers from anybody. I'm only supposed to seek ingredients and allow that which is in me to create them. And so I had a lot of just information coming in my head, and at sometimes it was so different than everything else. And I didn't follow the spiritual path. I wasn't even spiritual 2 years ago at all. I never meditated until 2 years ago. And so now all of a sudden I had all this information, and it was like walking in between two worlds, and it was could almost feel like you're losing your mind sometimes. But so it was really good confirmation to hear almost verbatim some of the things that I had come to on my own. So if you guys want to listen to those. All right, so I got this answer almost 2 years ago, and I know it has a purpose, and I use it myself, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe the devil is in the details. Maybe I'm not supposed to give the details, or maybe I'm not supposed to fully understand the details, because maybe that's using the ego too much. But here's what it told me. It said that I was meditating one day, and it said the 7 chakras, the 7 virtues, the 7 sins, the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit are all connected. Figure it out. So this is how far I've gone with it. All right. So you have the 7 chakras that go up from the root to the crown. Now, there's a whole chakra system. Believe it or not, there's actually 114 chakras, which is kind of cool. And that's how many scriptures are in the Gospel of Thomas. I have almost all of them figured out, and I'll do separate podcasts on each of the things from the Gospel of Thomas. But basically, you have the root chakra, which is your living one, the kind of security one. And then you have your sacral, which is the feeling one. Then you have the solar, which is the will. Then you have the heart, which is love. Throat is speak. Third eye chakra is see. The crown chakra is the I am. All right. Now, what's really cool about that is the way that humans have them programmed now is if you live your life with a need to have. So you remember I said the Kennedy thing, ask not what your life, well, I'm going to change a little bit. Ask not what your life can do for you, but what you can do for your life. And this goes with everything. What can you do for your body? Because you're limitless, really. You're only limited by what you believe. And so when you switch from needing the world or your life to give to you in some way, and that's where a lot of anxiety comes. I don't feel good right now. Well, then change the way you feel. We get mixed up. We think we've been trained by psychiatry to think that our brains tell us, make us unhappy. It's not true. Just not. If that was the case, you would have been born that way. No, it's a learned behavior. It's just a belief in the thought realm, or what some people call the spirit realm, the mind realm. So the thing is that if you operate, and that's actually what greed is. It's the need of the outside of anything to give to you. It's not believing that you are a sovereign, completely in control. Like, you aren't just in control of your feelings. It radiates outwards. That's why, like, a baby looks at a ball, and the baby can't move the ball yet before it can walk and move its hands, right? So what does it do? It learns to conquer the body. By the way, conquer means ascend, right? It divides and conquers. It realizes what is and what isn't, and says, all right, this is a finger, this is a hand, this is this is that. And then eventually it dominates and takes control of the body. Now, the body is a universe of 30 trillion living organisms. That is a super feat what that child did. It basically dominated and took control of 30 trillion living organisms. To some degree. A lot of it's still unconscious, but you can the higher we climb and your interoception increases, you can start doing some really, really cool stuff with your body. I'm still working on a lot of those, but and then eventually it gets out there and it starts to masters its body. Know thyself, master thyself, and then it can now get up and it can manipulate the world around it. First, it can just walk in the world, it can move around in the world, and then it can start picking things up and throwing them and moving things, and then what happens? Then it gets even better, and now it's building and creating things in that world. Well, it goes further, guys. There's a lot of stuff I won't get into on these podcasts. It's just really, really deep stuff, but everything exists, really, and you tune in. There's infinite versions of everything. And as you get to know yourself, you'll realize that it's actually possible that you can live in a world with all these other people around you, yet you are creating that world. Because everything already exists. You are just jumping into that world, which matches exactly your frequency. Right? So in order to do that, you really want to tune into the power of love. And so how do you do that? Well, the Bible says you get what you give. Good begets good, bad begets bad. Jesus says if you hold your hand out with nothing in it, you'll end up with less than you had. If you go to give to the world, put your hand out with something in it, it will give back to you. Why is that? Because the world is your reflection. Look in a mirror. Take a piece of bread and try to give it to the mirror reflection. It will give you a piece of bread. Try to take its bread, it will take away from you. It's like that Aesop's fable where it's a dog, runs over, and it looks in the water at its reflection. It's got a bone in its mouth. And it looks in the water and says, that dog has a bone. I want to take that bone from that dog. And it opens up its mouth, it goes to take the bone from the dog. What happens? The bone in its mouth falls out. Now, it and the reflection are both without a bone. Guys, that's really, it's a very, very powerful analogy because that is the equivalent of what we're doing when we ignorantly believe that we are not creating the world in front of us. That the world in front of us is happening to us. That it has the ability to take from us without us actually taking from ourselves. So when the Bible says things about good begets good and what you give, you get, this is not about judgment, people. It's not about you're more spiritual than this person, you're better than that person, you're good and he's bad. No, it's just reality. It's just math, man. It's not a math man. It's math, comma, man. It's math. It's just how it works. It's that the whole universe is just mirrors inside of mirrors. And because everything exists, you can exist in this reality, in this moment, and have this reality be your creation, but simultaneously have everything else in that reality also have everything in its reality be its creation, because technically it's not creating, all of us aren't creating, the Creator already created all things. We're tuning into this moment of infinite moments based on the frequency of love that we have. It's like this, and that's the matrix. It's what it is. It's crazy stuff. I can see it in my mind. I actually, I'm surprised I was able to put that in words that way. I've seen it for a long time. And see, this is why I love doing these. So now I am trying to, watch what's happening right now. I'm trying to give information to strangers. And as I'm giving it, I'm getting in return a better understanding of what I'm saying. Give freely. That's why they say all that is buried will be uncovered. Nothing is hidden in the kingdom of heaven. In the Gospel of Thomas, they say Jesus, or Yeshua probably, because the letter J didn't exist back then. Like it literally didn't exist. So Yeshua. With a Y. So they say, hey, Yeshua, should we fast to reach heaven? Should we give money to the poor? There was something else they asked they could do. He goes, no. He goes, never do anything that you hate. All that is hidden will become manifest. All that is hidden will be revealed. You can't cheat the system, guys. You can't. Your intent, and it says in the Bible too, all over the place, don't do things with ill intent. It won't work. And it's not because there's an angry guy in the sky who's going to punish you. It's just the divine law. It's math. You can't cheat it. You cannot cheat it. If I look in a mirror and I do something, the mirror does an inverted, projected reflection of what I just did, period. But the thing is you never actually have anything, to go back to that thought process I had earlier. You don't have anything material. You do, however, in the present moment, have a particular frequency that you are exuding. That is the spirit. God grant me the courage, the wisdom, the serenity, joy, peace, passion, compassion, resolve, flexibility, versatility, gratitude, kindness, patience. Those are all aspects of the Spirit. What is the Spirit? The Holy Spirit, W-H-O-L-L-Y, the whole spirit of love through all of your state of being. Are you being in love? Right? So the answer that I got from a while ago, so I did find them. So this is what I have, right? So your root chakra is your survival living. The sacral is your feeling, passions, right? Your solar is your will. Heart is love. Throat is speak. Third eye see. Crown is like your I am presence, the creation of all things, right? That's why they always show the little halos on the back of their head. Now, this is what I have so far. If you live in a give and take mindset where you don't realize the whole mirror reflection thing, and you're hoping the world is like going to give you something that you haven't actually given the world. So you give to the world with your frequency. And the funny part is that's why they say, seek ye first the kingdom of God or heaven, and all will be given unto you. Because what you're really doing is you're just seeking to let the power of love flow through every aspect of your being. If you let the aspect of love flow through all aspects of your being, you will get things still, or you will receive things, but you will understand that they are just relationships. And you will approach them all with the virtues. And so whatever you have, you'll be happy. And much happier than people that are just chasing things all the time. But you have to kind of break out of that give and or take mindset and realize that every time you take, like that dog, you're just taking from yourself. You will literally kill what you think is you. Because the soul goes on forever because it's an infinite, limitless thing. But the goal is to take the ego and help the ego transcend so that you can take it on into the next realm. Otherwise, you just keep getting deleted. And you go back and it's just like refresh, and then it's like you might as well, it's hard to explain. But That's why they say the road is narrow and the other road is death. But it's not, the soul goes on forever. But, if you love yourself, you love that ego who's been a faithful servant to you your whole life. Love it, man. Help it transform. Show it love, right? So, so this is how it works. So we got to switch. So now, if you are in the give and take mindset, which is false, it's just false. You're not bad. You're not going against God. You are just taking from yourself, right? So the give or take mindset, this is how it would work. So the root chakra, you would have a choice of either. Sorry, let me just make sure I have this right. So the root chakra would be pride or sloth. People say you got to balance your chakras. Well, if you do the give and take mindset, you can't balance them because you're in a give or take mindset. So you'd have a choice with your root chakra between pride or sloth, right? And then and actually, what's funny is you'll actually see this is how it would actually usually work. So people that are, so some people say you got to be service to self or service to others, but the reality is you want to be service to all, and you realize that the body is the tool in which you will radiate out your love. So it's not about finding there's a lot of this law of the one stuff. I don't believe that there's any one source that's supposed to give us all the answers. I think that's part of the game. Which maybe is why I don't get the exact details, because I'm not supposed to give people the exact answer either. And I kind of have a feeling if someone gave you the exact answer, you wouldn't hear it. It's kind of, you have to go on your own journey, but they can give you bits and pieces that you'll take. And that's why my podcasts are like this. They're probably very different. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but several people have mentioned to me, Brian, why don't you give more specifics, more details, show you how to do it exactly? And I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to, and I don't think it would be useful if I did. You guys know the drill. You go try to tell somebody who's at a particular frequency of understanding something that's beyond what they've already kind of started seeing on their own, they won't hear you. They just won't. They can't. They don't have, Jesus said, they don't have ears to hear. So the way it works is if you're in the old give or take mindset, you don't realize the world is yours. The world, it's funny, all the things we thought were bad, you think the world revolves around you. Yes, I do. You have a God complex. Yes, I do. You think you're the center of the universe. Yes, I do. All right. You're full of yourself. Yes, I am. Those are all things we want to be. Because if I don't think I'm the center of my universe, then I am thinking that other people are responsible for what's going on in my world. And I'm not going to give them that power. Doesn't mean I literally want to give to the world. I am going to be the best as long as I know of, to be the light that shines on the world. Does it mean that I think that this moment I am a perfect being? Yes. For the past moment, for the moment that just went by, yes, I was perfect. Perfectly imperfect. Imperfect enough that I always have somewhere to grow. But the minute I say that, if someone asks me, "Oh, will you think you're perfect?" Yes, because you just asked that question, which is now in the past. I was perfect for then. Because if I think anything other than that I wasn't perfect up until this moment, now I'm judging myself, I'm condemning myself, and blah blah blah, and being ungrateful or whatever. So anyways, but when we're in that give or take mindset, this is kind of how it works. I'm gonna make. I know I will do a training about this one. It'll be like special slides and stuff like that. But these daily podcasts, I like how I'm just doing a daily podcast and I don't have to stick to anything. I can just kind of go here, and you guys, can take what you want from it. But here's how it works. A lot of people that are quote unquote more spiritual, you'll notice that, and I've noticed very, very, very inherent in a lot of people that are like whatever it is that that I am like is a lot of us chose the selfless path. That didn't mean we didn't hurt people and we didn't make quote unquote mistakes. But a lot of our mistakes were actually at the root of it all was us. It was from shame of ourselves. And then there were other people out there who were the opposite, and they were more selfish, and they were more able to hurt other people like directly. So this is kind of how it works. So if you could look at it like the bottom 3 chakras, if they're overpowered, they'll be in that old mindset. They were selfish. So they would have at the root would be pride for the root chakra, which is really just kind of like I'm different than, I'm separate, I need to take, right? And then the next one would be envy, and then the next one would be wrath. So their root chakra would be tuned to pride. Their sacral would be pride to envy, and then their solar would be wrath, and then their heart chakra would be greed. So the greed is just like this hunger or need of the world. It's not realizing that you are the creator of your world. So even the selfless people would still be using that greed one, because the opposite is charity. So you can only fully give charity from your heart chakra when you fully embrace the concept, and to the degree that you fully embrace the concept that you are the giver to your world, that nothing has ever happened to you. Nothing can happen to you. Everything will be a direct reflection of the frequency that you are emitting of charity, giving to all aspects of your life, including yourself, because yourself is the body and it's an ego. It's a living creature. It is not you. You are responsible for it. So that you'd have, so the people that had overpowered, give or take, lower chakras leaning towards selfishness would have pride, envy, wrath in that order. Now, what's really interesting is the people that were selfless would usually have supercharged 5th, 6th, and 7th chakras. But then they would have undercharged lower ones. And so if you have an undercharged lower chakra and you're doing selfless, then instead of pride, you'd have sloth. So pride is, thinking, oh, I'm proud, I need to get this, I need to do that, blah, 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 blah. And sloth is, I'm not good enough. So people think it's just being lazy, but you'll actually notice that people that are quote unquote slothful, a lot of them would actually, not all of them, but a lot of them, they would do for others, they just didn't really do for themselves, and they would look lazy in their own life. So there's that one. And then the next one is, instead of envy, it would be lust. So envy is this, I believe other people have things that I want. And the selfless person thinks, I'm not worthy enough. I don't think I can. Selfless is very bad for you to do that, because now you don't realize what you're capable of or anything. And then you don't think you deserve it and all that stuff. So you go for lust, you go for instant gratification to fulfill the yearning, right? And then that's why Jesus said, don't ever do anything that you hate. He said, if you give away stuff, if you give away money to the poor, he goes, you'll hurt your spirits. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean giving people money is going to hurt your spirits. But what he was saying is that if you are being selfless and not valuing yourself, your own thoughts, your own will, you're harming your spirits, that's what spirits are, by the way. It's just thought forms. And then the third one, instead of wrath, you would have gluttony. You'd have gluttony. But now, with that being said, the people who were selfish would have the wrath, envy, and things like that. Whereas the people that were selfless would be more patient with others. They would be more humble, and they would be more kind to others. And so the only way to really ascend is you've got to get out of that selfish, selfless mentality. And the only way to do that is to realize to the best of your ability that the world is not happening to you. There are infinite realities. God already created them all. You get a choice which experience you want to go. That's what true humility is. It already all exists. You didn't create your body. You didn't create yourself up until this moment. It was created for you. God's the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. You are the experiencer. You are the interpreter. You are the observer. And your free will is to choose which experience of the infinite possibilities that are out there that you get to experience. Give the glory to God. He already created it all. Take the pressure off yourself. And just say, what would I like to experience? Think about it like you're sitting down for a movie or a video game. You can have a lot of fun in a video game or watching a movie knowing you didn't make it. You just chose to watch it. Right? Yeah, if you guys want to really kind of think about it, but that's how it works. So the fourth, so it goes like this. So basically, here's a tip for you guys. So how do you switch from a need to have or need to give, take from self or take from others type give or take mentality to get to that love mentality? Well, I'll give you guys the virtues, and what you want to do is you want to, over time here, you want to reprogram your 7 chakras to go from that the flux that I told you, right? And switch it to, ready? So the root chakra would be humility. The sacral chakra would turn to patience. No, I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong. Sorry. The root chakra, change it to prudence. Right? So before it was like either pride or sloth, now you're doing prudence. See that? See what's going on there? It's a blend, right? So you have a choice of either pride of yourself, thinking yourself like to the degree of pride is like how much separate and better you think you are than everything else. And then there is your or sloth, which is selfish. So it's either being selfish. Let's think about that, right? So if you're selfish, then you're prideful. If you're selfless, you're slothful, right? Because you don't value yourself and you don't think you can do anything, right? But what is self more? Prudence. What is prudence? Exercise, drinking good water, eliminating toxins from your diet, alkaline. I'll have a podcast on that. I'll probably do for you guys today. Let's go to the next one. The next one is either envy or lust. Envy, wanting that of which somebody else has. Now remember, everything's in the present moment. So if you're envying anybody, you are suffering right now because you don't have something someone else has. That's crazy, right? And then, so selfish would be envious. Selfless would be lustful. What is lust? Seeking after instant gratification that is not helping propel your life to give you what you truly desire to be and do. So what's the self more? Diligence. Right? That's pretty cool, huh? And if you notice, guys, everything's inverts, talking about reflections. Pride is an invert of humility. Right? Envy and lust it's with diligence, and then you have and then so the third one, so you go prudence for the root, diligence for the sacral, and then the third is temperance. Right? So let's think about it, right? So you had a choice, either wrath or gluttony. And remember, gluttony is self-hate, and wrath is hate to others. Again, those are inverted of each other. So what do you do instead? You do temperance. Right? And then the fourth chakra is charity. Now remember, charity is like agape. It's the force of love. It is seeking to give to all aspects of your life. Because remember, you don't ever have anything. You only have relationships to things. And how you feel about those relationships are tied to the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, the spirit of agape, charity, love. All of those feelings, courage, serenity, joy, wisdom, all that, the fruits, and I'll get to that in a minute, of the Holy Spirit, those are actually what you're truly seeking. I used to say, I was in sales, been in sales for a long time. I always said, people don't buy on logic. They buy on emotion. And they use logic either before or after their purchase to justify why they did it. But they're seeking the feeling. So the feeling comes from the feeling of love. That comes from inside of you. Nobody can inject that feeling into you, contrary to what people think. Even if you take a pill, it has to do with the belief of your DNA and the belief it's just a bunch of stuff. So anyways, the next chakra, the throat chakra, is patience for others, instead of, now when you go up to the top ones, I don't want to make this too complicated for you guys. Anyways, I'll just tell you what they are for the 7, and I'll have charts for you later to make it a lot easier. So root chakra, program to prudence. Second chakra, change it to diligence. Third chakra, change it to temperance. Fourth chakra, change it to charity, agape charity giving, right? Not based on the desirability of the object, but the transformation, utilizing power of the divine. From the heart you call forth all power for love and giving. That's why they say an overabundance of the heart, as someone speaks or whatever. And then the next one is patience. Third eye is kindness. And and then the root chakra is something distracted me. The crown chakra is humility. Okay, so root chakra, prudence; sacral, diligence; solar, temperance; heart, charity; throat, patience; third eye, kindness; crown chakra, humility. Now here's what's really cool. Remember I was saying you give what you get? Well, what do you really get if you don't actually have anything? Well, what can you ever do in the present moment if everything already exists and you're just tuning into the reality that you're quote unquote projecting that you exist in? You can only have your feelings, your interpretation, your power, right? So prudence will give you serenity. That's the fruit of the spirit. Diligence will give you courage. Temperance will give you wisdom. Doesn't this sound familiar? People that are trying to overcome a bad habit where they're hurting their bodies. And the three lower chakras, which are focused on your body: prudence, diligence, and temperance. Well, prudence will give you serenity. Diligence will give you courage. Temperance will give you wisdom. Do you notice something there? It's an invert. If you seek purity, you have pure thoughts. If you seek to be courageous and diligent, you get courage. If you seek to be temperate, you get wisdom. See what's going on here, guys? It's a reality. Seek to give to your life. Seek to give to others. Seek to give to your body. Seek to give to your past. Seek to give to your future. Seek to give in all aspects of your life. It is the only way to tune in to the power of love. And relative to the degree in which you are seeking to give, charity is the degree in which you will get the emotions. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, love, and giving, and all will be delivered unto you. Okay. Talk to you guys soon.